we have come to an inflection point. The last time we've had an inflection point, anything even remotely like this was, with the internet, with the web, and you realize like, okay, from this moment forward, there is no going back. This AI technology is going to be now a permanent part of how business works, even beyond business, like ways in which we embed this.
Welcome to Under the Hood.
Hi there, and welcome back to another episode of Under the Hood with our co-host, I'll introduce in a second, and a very special guest that we have. I'm going to let him introduce himself, but let me just tell you a little bit about what we're about here. So it is the podcast for sales and marketing leaders. We actually take you with the latest tools, the latest tech, and also any trends to help you work just that little bit smarter. Today's topic obviously goes in line with that introduction, how to build marketing momentum with AI and Martech. So super excited for this one. My name is Tony Eades, Chief Strategy Officer, co-founder of Sorted Stone. We're a elite partner of HubSpot. And as I mentioned, I do have a co-host. We've dragged her in again for another episode, Mel Phelps Cevik, our regional director from APAC. Hello.
Hello, thank you. I don't know how the co-host title has come about. I was just meant to be guest starring, and you got me here, and it looks like I can't go. I can't leave. But thank you for welcoming me back again.
That's all right. It's all part of the small print in the contract that no one ever reads. But also all the way from the east coast of America, the wonderful Scott Brinker, VP Platform Ecosystem at HubSpot. Scott, welcome.
Thank you so much. Great to be here with both of you.
Awesome. Anything you want to add to that title? I know you've probably got a title as long as my two arms together, but anything you want to intro yourself other than the one I've just given you?
Well, I would say I've been wearing two hats in this industry for a long time. So yes, the work I do officially is as the VP of Platform Ecosystem at HubSpot, which is really about managing our ecosystem of app partners and technology partners. I've also been my labor of love after working all day at a Martech company. The way I kick back and relax as a hobby is I've been writing a blog about marketing technology for, my goodness, 17 years, called Chief Martech. I don't know if any of you have ever seen that crazy graphic of like 15,000 different logos of Martech solutions around the world. That's one of the artifacts I've created with that. So yeah, it's all Martech all the time for me.
Yeah, well, that's fantastic, because to be honest with you, when I was doing a bit of pre-research for this, I found that you were the inventor of that great Martech landscape graphic that I have been following very much since. I remember years ago, I used to do presentations in the early stage, and I used to bring that one up, when it was the, Martech 500, now it's the, 14,000 or something on there.
We published an update back in May here. It is over 15,000, my friend. Yeah.
You definitely need a microscope now for it to be legible. I remember seeing it, back when I was studying marketing at uni. It was one of the part of the curriculum, and if you wanted to be on the pulse of what was happening, you'd wait for the graphic every year annually and see what was there.
It's interesting because I always look at that graphic, Scott, and I think the poor people that have to put that together. Yep. One, there's the research, then there's the 14 or now 15,000 logos that they have to find and put on there. I would think it'd take a year to put it together.
Yeah, no, it is actually a small team that works on it. When I started that in 2011, and there were around 150, had I known what it was going to become, I'm not sure I would have set down on that path.
I know, it's crazy. Well, as we get into this Martech explosion, which is part of our talk today, we're going to talk about new and emerging tech on this podcast, and we're going to hear from everything that's happening. We're going to dive into it a little bit more. Obviously, AI is going to play an important part of this. AI has dismantled the old order, presenting both a challenge and an immense opportunity for curious marketers. and also salespeople, service people, everything. Obviously, everybody's having a dabble in it. Today, 78% of organizations use AI, up from 55% the previous year. So people are starting to have a dabble and get into it, some winning, some not, I suppose. That was a Stanford report there. Meanwhile, the Martech landscape, as we were saying, is growing. So there's more and more opportunities. Where do you start? Which one do you pick and which one do you back? It's like having 15,000 horses in a race. Which one's going to win? And all of this kind of stuff. So, Scott, you wrote an article actually back in 2023, I saw, as part of that research. Forget the Martech 5,000, try the Martech 500 million. Let's start with, how big do you think this graphic is going to get? Like, how big is the Martech? Surely these people are challenged with getting their own market share, especially on a graphic like that with all those logos. And are they sustaining a profit? Like, are you losing people? Is it going to sustain at 15,000, or what's it going to look like a couple of years from now?
Wow. Okay. Great question. I guess let me put this as the context for the 500 million. Is the Martech landscape that I'd put together was always really intended to capture the commercial Martech landscape. These are folks who are trying to actually build products and sell products. And while, that landscape isn't really a good representation of the industry because all the logos are equally unreadable. If instead you were going to order all the companies on that chart based on, like say their revenue, market share, user base, it would form a graph that we call a long tail. So it's this distribution where there's maybe a couple dozen companies that are, these very large multi-billion-dollar companies, HubSpot, Salesforce, Adobe, folks like that. You then have several hundred companies that are quite large in the space. They're sort of leaders in their category, typically over 100 million, ARR. And then you get into this long tail of just thousands and thousands of things that some of them are like startups that aspire to become the next HubSpot. Some of them are very specialized ecosystem products. We have a number of these that in the HubSpot ecosystem that people build an app very specifically for HubSpot. They're not trying to make it into a $100 million business, but you get two developers in a garage building something, well, I guess probably a metaphorical garage at this point, building something that people love, and they make, a couple $1 million out of it. That's actually a real great win for them. And so that's just the commercial landscape, which is where we're currently at about 15,000. But the thing is, and I'm sure we'll get into this in our discussion around AI, is there's always been people building custom software inside their organizations. Typically not the entire stack, but usually they'll have a set of the commercial products that are like the foundation of their tech stack, and then they'll start building custom apps and automations and things around that. And boy, with AI, that has exploded. So many tools that now make it so easy for people. I guess you've probably heard of the vibe coding movement. I have an idea for something I've always wanted to have this do. And, if I can describe it in, natural language, the AI can help me build it. And I think that is really exciting because that's really what we mean by 500 million. It's like the entire universe of software. It's growing where only a small percentage is actually these commercial products, and the vast majority is going to be more and more custom stuff.
So I suppose it kind of comes back to this aspect of, people and organizations don't necessarily move at the same exponential rate that tech moves, right? Whether it gets to 500 million, tech moves fast. Well, humans generally change slowly. So how are people needing to change to keep up or adopt? I mean, one of those things you just mentioned, which was great, is people taking it in-house and customizing it, so actually owning the tech in-house. But how are you finding people and organizations are adapting to this fast change of tech?
It's hard. It is hard. I don't know anyone, who's sitting back and saying, yeah, no, this is easy. I've got my arms around all this. It's like, piece of cake. Change is hard, and we are going through an extraordinary amount of change. There's not a silver bullet to it, but what I will say is the companies that seem to be doing a better job than others are, first, they recognize that this pace of change probably isn't slowing down anytime soon. And so one of the things that they invest in is almost like this meta capability of getting better at change, and that happens at many different levels. So one level would just be like even a technical architecture level, making sure that, okay, whatever commercial products you are going to use at the center of your tech stack, are they open? Do they have open APIs? Do you have open access to the data? This is one of the things I've been very passionate about in my mission here at HubSpot, is making sure that people who use HubSpot at the center of their tech stack have the ability to plug pretty much anything they would like into that. That openness gives you the ability, gives you the optionality to bring in any other kind of new technology that appears on your horizon. And I mean, you and I don't know necessarily even what next new technical wonder is going to appear 6 months from now. But there probably will be something 6 months from now that, appears and we're like, oh yeah, I would really love to plug this into my tech stack. Yeah. And it's important your technology stack enables that. But in some ways, the tech piece of that is the easiest, right? It's not really rocket science. The much harder thing is like changing the way we run our organizations. We can talk a little bit here about the whole agile management movement that, boy, it started like 25 years ago with software developers and agile software development. And it was really just about developing these ways of, instead of having these long plans that you try and fix everything up front and then just heads down follow it, to really like approach a destination. I have a strategy, I have a destination I want to get to, but to approach that destination in a much more iterative and incremental way that allows you, like, all right, we do these little sprints and we see what works and we learn from it and what's the reactions to that, and then we adjust. And that sort of approach to agile management's been very powerful in software. Over the past decade and a half, we've seen it adopted in marketing organizations as a way to make marketing more agile. And even if you don't talk about agile management as a thing, at the end of the day, it's those kinds of practices that really allow companies to adapt to change much more quickly.
And that's a challenge. So Mel is our regional director here for APAC. So how are you adapting the organization to AI? Because obviously we've built some of our own AI. Scott, you'd be pleased to know, based on what you said, we've taken ChatGPT and run a whole bunch of things. Probably we've got one of those guys on our team that just keeps releasing new versions of it before he's even tested it out. Yeah. So, but how are you finding it?
We're a B2B business, and I think the challenge for us maintains in the fact that we can be as agile as we need to be to make sure it works. But if our clients aren't necessarily agile or moving at the same speed, it all sort of comes to a grinding halt, on that agile piece where you get everything done, you twist things, you optimize things, we're really flowing, but then it stops and it's got to go through the 10 layers of management. I mean, that's quite challenging. We are trying to use AI in a way that makes us work faster and not necessarily harder. So the administrative things, improving briefs, looking back on what we've done in the past and having this library of, AI and ChatGPTs that can just call upon our global knowledge as well. So you're losing necessarily the time of needing to go and chat to someone in America because they've done a project on this. There's an AI tool already built and captured with all of that information that you can interact with and ask questions and spit out something custom for a lead, which has been really interesting. We've also had this culture for the past 2 years, as you know, where we're like, just give it a go. If there's a tool out there that you want to try and you feel like it's going to impact your work, then let's trial things. Even down to our note taker, we've switched up our AI note taker recently, and we're trying a few others. It's
trial and error.
Yeah. Mine's a bit questionable. She shows up sometimes and she doesn't other days.
You have to lay in. Is it right? Yeah. You've got a she, I got a he.
Yeah. I've labelled my note taker a female. Yeah, but I mean that's really it's really about removing the barriers, increasing the curiosity amongst the team, but also having like guardrails. Yeah. So making sure we're not, releasing data and sensitive things into the wild, but embracing that culture of just give it a try.
Yeah. And Scott, at HubSpot, I know we were lucky to have you across here in Sydney for Grow, and also Yamini. And Yamini was mentioning about, I think the goal at HubSpot is something like 80% AI usage within the team. And you've actually got teams set up to check in on how folks are using it. Is that right? Is that, HubSpot are really moving to being an AI first organization within?
Oh, 100%. Yeah. I mean, there's really no choice. I think everyone sees we have come to an inflection point. The last time we've had an inflection point, anything even remotely like this was, with the internet, with the web, and you realize like, okay, from this moment forward, there is no going back. This AI technology is going to be now a permanent part of how business works, even beyond business, like ways in which we embed this, all throughout like our personal lives here as well too. And so as soon as you like sort of accept that as like, yeah, this is coming, there's no going back, then you really just have to recognize that, okay, we've got to lean into this. We've got to embrace this. We've got to adapt it. I mean, for HubSpot to be in a position to authentically be able to advise and serve customers on how they can best leverage AI inside their businesses, we have to eat our own dog food, drink our own champagne, metaphor of your choice there. Drink your own champagne sounds better than eat your own dog food. Like we have to do it ourselves, because we have to learn as well too. Yeah. And I think everyone at HubSpot has actually just really relished this. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's a lot. I mean, we're in the same position everyone else is, that it's a lot to keep up with, but it's also a heck of a lot of fun.
Agreed. Yeah. Absolutely.
Well, that's the attitude, isn't it? Yeah.
Absolutely. This is a question I love to ask. We obviously saw a lot of use cases for AI around, client service. But Scott, in your opinion, where are you seeing AI tools right now having the biggest impact across sales and marketing?
Wow. Okay. So
loaded question, I know.
Are three primary use cases that I see at the moment. But then, some very exciting stuff coming down the pike here. One is, of course, on the content creation side of things. Like anyone like managing content, even from like the early brainstorming process, through how do you optimize the content production pipeline. And by the way, I'm not talking about using AI to just like automatically generate what they call AI slop. No, I mean like actually have craftspeople who are using this AI to up their game, to be able to, have actually larger visions, of what they can experiment with. That has been incredibly successful for people who've leaned into it. I think it's only going to get better. There's a second level of AI that is, of course, just the interfaces to customers. Like HubSpot's customer agent. We've been around for a while, so we all know the chatbots that became ubiquitous on websites. And let's be honest, a lot of those chatbots actually weren't that helpful.
Agreed. Yeah.
But now, with this combination of like the conversational capability and sort of just the deep contextual awareness that these LLMs, bring to these conversational agents, plus now the ability that we're connecting all the right sort of data for, like in the case of HubSpot, things like, the knowledge base, so that now these like conversational agents, they're actually really quite good now. And it's actually fascinating. You think to like a year or so ago, and they weren't that great. And like now they're phenomenal. And the pace at which they're getting better and better is super impressive. And then I guess the third thing I would say is, all right, so we got creating and content. We got like agents interfacing to customers. I think the third thing is empowering marketers to be able, I always think of marketers, but salespeople, customer success people, empowering customer leaders in an organization to self-service more things themselves. One of the things about, so much of the Martech software that's out there is it's very powerful, but as it's gotten more and more powerful, it's gotten harder to learn. There's just so many capabilities that it has. Is like, how do you even figure out, like, wait, what's possible and how would I do that and how would I configure that? And I'm happy that, in the market, HubSpot does better than most, I think, at trying to create this really great and easy and intuitive interface. But still, there's a lot under the hood here. Hey, just a meta reference to the podcast
good
here.
Plug. Good plug there, Scott.
But one of the great things about now these like AI sort of assistants, co-pilots is, okay, I don't have to necessarily go figure this all out myself. If I can just simply describe in natural language what it is I'm looking for. Hey, I'm looking for a report, to compare this cohort up against this cohort. This is the data I'm interested in. Can you do it for these regions?
Yep.
And the AI just figures out, like, oh, well, here, let me configure that report for you. Here you go. Is this what you had in mind? Oh, my goodness. And it does that, right, in a matter of seconds. That is so empowering. So, I don't know. Those are three things that just get me really excited about AI.
Awesome. The interesting thing, though, with everything around AI and even the examples you've given there, Scott, is the barrier to entry is lower now, right? It's easier. So I just want to pull on a thread that Mel mentioned earlier on about how do we set the guidelines. We let everybody loose in the organization. They're all super excited, like kids in a lolly shop, and they all start pulling things off the counter and the wall and start using it. And what comes to mind? So, and I think you presented your version of this at Grow, but I've played around a lot in the AI avatar space, which has taken that customer agent part to the next level of having a human AI version of yourself with platforms like HeyGen. But I saw recently, and you guys might have caught this, the AI influencer Mia Zalou, who supposedly a photorealistic, fully AI-generated persona, attended Wimbledon, but she didn't. In the end, she convinced with some styled shots, and complete with a Pim's drink in her hand, front row angles at Wimbledon, she fooled over 150,000 followers, including some celebrities, into believing she was real and she was at Wimbledon, but she didn't have a ticket because she wasn't real. So I suppose, Scott, one of the things is, how do companies manage and set some kind of boundaries about AI implementation within their organizations without slowing down the creativity, this balance?
Yeah, well, I mean, there's so many different levels to this. I mean, certainly there's like a technical data layer where you need to make sure that you are controlling things like permissions, particularly when it comes to data access. It's fine to let people experiment things, but they should be experimenting things within the sandbox of what they would normally have access to. You don't want to make this something where and now I can, search every single doc that was ever created in the entire company, including all of the confidential HR documentation. No, permission management.
Yeah.
Step one.
Don't give everyone super admin.
But I think there's another level that you're getting at here, which is really about, not so much the ethical side of it, so much as just what are the principles by which the company wants to represent itself with customers and its use of AI. And then this is one of these things where I feel, and I think this is generally a value across HubSpot, is transparency is the right way to go. I mean, decide what you consider, the right way, to represent this, and then be transparent about it. So, if you're going to have a avatar version of a human, that engages with people, to me, I think being upfront that this is not actually a real person. This is an avatar. But isn't it cool? Isn't this a great way? I mean, hopefully it's a enjoyable way, to engage with us. But I think, trying to fake anything, again, everyone has their own, compass of how they want to represent themselves to customers.
Yeah.
I would say authenticity, even through the use of artificial intelligence, is probably the best way to go.
It's good to hear, actually, because that's exactly the angle I've taken, Scott. I call him something different. He's Tony AI, and I have more fun with it than anything. The fact he can speak French, German, and everything else that I can't speak. So he's got a few additional skills. But we're in the process of creating Mel's AI, which he's kind of sitting back waiting for it to come to life. But I think you're right. You just have to, because I think AI, and you've kind of given it the energy to it in this podcast, which I love, is it's fun. Don't be scared of it. Get in there and start using it, but call it out when it's not real. And people actually like that. I use it in presentations and I just throw AI up in the background and he speaks something in French or whatever. It's just a bit of fun, but it gets people using it. We've got clients using it now because of that.
Yeah, I think you're right, Scott. You threw a word out there that I use all the time when we talk about your AI, which is authenticity. So like people are going to cotton on eventually if you're trying to pass something off that's not you, whether it's a beautiful video like Tony AI agent or if it's a written agent. They've got to understand, are they speaking to a machine or a person? I think that's, also that level of trust. The moment you starting to put AI behind walls and dress them up as people is the moment people are going to stop trusting a business and just walk away elsewhere, I think.
Yeah. You can't cheat people. So the other title that I have here for you, Scott, is the godfather of Martech. We got to the godfather of Martech.
I can attest,
in the room.
I can attest to this title being used. Absolutely. Yeah.
So I was going to ask you, you've witnessed plenty of hyper cycles, if we can call them that. And obviously, as you quite rightly said, because I felt the same way, because I was around when, where in fact I started my first agency, and our first website was on one computer in one room, and we all used to send emails and receive emails from that one computer. And I remember starting in my marketing career with this Macintosh called the LC475, and the guy that sold it to me said, it's got 100 meg of memory. You will never, ever use it up. It's like millions of documents, whatever, but here we are. So my question to you, let's go back to this agility for organizations, because I'm keen on that. We actually did some agile training pre all this AI craze. So it's not just about speed and efficiency, it's about this agility for organizations. So maybe take us through your thoughts on how the very structured traditional companies need to start to think about being a little bit more agile. Because I think, as you said in one of your quotes at Grow, was that you've seen, and there's stats to prove that companies that are more agile are adopting AI faster than those who aren't.
Yeah, well, I don't know if I can do justice to agile management, in a 2-minute segment of what to adopt. But the good news is there is a lot of material out there for that. And if you're particularly interested in this from a marketing perspective, I actually wrote a book, and it was released in 2016, which now seems like forever ago, called Hacking Marketing. It was very much about okay, there are all these things that software developers have learned to do working in this digital environment where things change so quickly and, software is just so malleable. Now that marketing has really... It's made of the same stuff. It is a malleable digital environment. There's just all these ways in which marketers can adapt things from the software development world, to the practice of modern marketing. And so most of the book was about adapting agile management to marketing. I think the 60-second, version of this is you stop getting into these very rigid planning cycles, and instead you sort of bifurcate between, a high level. You want to maintain a strategy. You want to maintain a set of principles. You want to maintain the North Star of what are people driving towards. But you want to let teams then be able to tackle the pursuit of that strategy in a way that is just much more iterative. This is why, in Agile, they talk about this idea of sprints, and whether you're running sprints that are a week or 2 weeks long, maybe up to a month long, the idea is you don't go longer than a few weeks before you're okay, these were the things we expected to be able to do. This is what we delivered. This is what we're starting to see as the results of that. What have we learned? What's any of the feedback that's happening here before we start this next 2 or 3 or 4 week sprint? Any changes we want to make? Do we want to adapt these priorities? And it's not doing it in the, sort of we'll just pick something different every sprint. No, you're keeping that strategy. You're keeping that North Star in sight. What you're doing is you're making these, adjustments to your navigation of how do we make sure we're actually going to hit that target. Easy to say if people haven't necessarily operated that way. It takes a little bit of work to change your mental model for that. It's very much about empowering people at the front line of the organization. It is a little less top-down management. And so for some companies, depending on the culture they're coming from, that takes some adapting to.
Yeah, Yeah, it's interesting because as I said, we did some agile training. We run a 5-day sprint here, and we have for a while. A little bit more structured as a sprint in terms of a production than it is.
You'd love it to be a daily
agile.
sprint, absolutely.
You're changing every day. But I think the thing, and I've mentioned this to Mel, that's missing that we've lost in that process from going agile to implementation is what we used to call, and we got trained on, the project context session, which is where you bring the whole team together and you say, right, this is the work we need to do. Now, how are we going to do it? And then it opens up people to, instead of just running a task and a structure, this is the way we've always done it, so we're going to rinse and repeat. Well, actually, we could actually do it this way. And that's what I'm hoping Mel's going to take on board.
Look, it's difficult because, like I said, we're a B2B business, and often our customers sit in sectors that are quite traditional. So we can be as agile as we like, but the thing that comes back to it is our customers love process and they like a schedule. And I think marketers are really, in particular, hesitant to make commitments and decisions on roadmaps unseen. So if we don't have this is exactly what the cake we're going to bake you and the ingredients that are going to go into it, it takes a lot of trust and a lot of convincing to get the right client to say, here's the 25% up front, the other 75% we're going to work out along the way, but we know your goal is X, Y, and Z, and we're going to get there. So
that's a good point. I mean, Scott, are you finding that from a client side? Like, we can talk about an organization being very adaptable, very agile, but are customers happy to pay for that kind of thinking up front with the idea they might get a better product at the end?
Well, I think it's agile within a context. So for instance, this has always been the case of, from the very beginning of adapting agile to marketing, is there are some things that marketing does that are going to have fixed deliverables on fixed dates. If you're coming to exhibit at Inbound, I hate to say it, it's a fixed date. It's not changing, and there's deadlines of things you need to do to, be able to meet that, opportunity. And so even in teams that are running a generally agile process, they're very often like facets of what they're doing where we are keeping track of a schedule of things that we need to deliver. And as we are doing our sprints, we are making sure that we are prioritizing those within those sprints as well, too. Yeah. Now, again, how much flexibility you have, you might not have flexibility on dates, but you might have some flexibility on what you actually end up delivering on that date. Because if you're running some other experiments in parallel and you are learning, like what's resonating, what's changing, what's becoming important to people. And right now with AI, I expect probably every few weeks there's something changing. The ability to be able to adapt that. So, when you decide we have this thing that's going to be due for a deadline in a month, rather than have to necessarily fix every single aspect of it 2 months in advance, to be able to lay the foundations for it, but be in a position where if we're learning something new, over here on this other side that we want to turn around and incorporate into that. Again, as long as we're doing it in full awareness of where those deadlines and what's required for it, that's actually a huge leverage. And I would argue that is still very agile.
Yeah, and I think so. To be honest, our clients, a lot of the clients we work with, have their own form of agility where they keep changing the project scope as you're delivering on it.
Project creep versus agility. I think don't say that out loud. They'll watch the podcast and I'll say, we're just being agile.
No one in particular.
Tony said we can be agile. So.
What about the framework, Scott? Because this kind of leads on to the framework. I'm not going to pronounce it. I know how it's spelled, but complex, chaotic, clear, and complicated. It's called...
Yeah, it's called the Cynefin framework. The way it's spelled does not sound, it's a Welsh word or something. Anyways, all right, so this Cynefin framework is developed by a guy named Dave Snowden, I think in the late 90s. And it's basically this way of looking at the different kinds of environments in which we make decisions and what we, how we run knowledge work. And so he had these 4 environments. The first he would call the clear, or simple environment, which is something where, it's like cause and effect of things, which is very tightly related. If, I press this button, this thing's going to happen here. It's a simple switch. And that's actually that's some of the easiest decisioning we make. In fact, we do a lot of those things now. We'll put them into automation, or we run them as just generally best practices. There's then this next environment that he called complicated. And this is where cause and effect are still deterministically related. Like if you start with A, Z is always going to happen. But you get to Z by going A to B to C to D. It's a very complicated path, and it requires people who are really experts about understanding those complications and understand, like, okay, when we're doing A, that's eventually going to create Z. His example of something that's complicated, by the way, would be like a Ferrari. A Ferrari is a complex machine, but it's also pretty deterministic. I mean, you get in and you press the button and you start, and the engine runs, you step on the gas. You don't even have to necessarily know about all the mechanics of how it's doing that. Unless if it stops working, right? If you woke up this morning, your Ferrari didn't start, and I feel bad for you if that was the case. You have to kind of take it to a professional Ferrari mechanic, because debugging and figuring out why A isn't causing Z, you have to be an expert in that. Yeah. And I think that's actually a very good metaphor for what a lot of marketing operations has been. We've created these very complex tech stacks and all these automations and workflows and things that, generally you kind of need a marketing ops pro who understands that. Then this other environment that Snowden talked about is called complex. And I know that sounds an awful lot like complicated, but he had a very different definition for this. In a complex environment, cause and effect are related, but not in a way that you can predict. And his sort of, metaphor for this would be like a rainforest and all of the different flora and fauna in a rainforest. I mean, there's definitely cause and effects, that happen in a rainforest. But it doesn't have the same sort of predictability, that starting your Ferrari does. And because all these parts, like, they sort of move independently and they interact with each other, in very complex ways. And I would actually make the point that this is the big transition that's happening with AI, with more agents and agentic AI and things being able to run more probabilistically and with more autonomy. Is marketing is kind of moving from an environment where it was complicated, a lot of different things going on, and you needed, the marketing Ferrari mechanic, to maintain it, to an environment that's starting to be a little bit more like a rainforest. We've got more of these agents, that are operating with greater autonomy, and they interact in interesting ways, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. In fact, in many ways, it can be a very powerful thing. But it's going to require us to adapt a bit of how we manage and govern this thing, because a rainforest is very, very different than a Ferrari. Oh, and just to close out, his fourth environment was what he called chaotic, where just forget any trying to debug, and some people might make the joke of, that sort of sounds like my marketing op. His example was if a building is on fire or something like this, you don't want to be sitting there and trying to figure out cause, just go for the exit. So anyways, that's the Cynefin framework.
Lovely. And I love how you presented it. I did actually take from Grow after you presented it at Grow and mention it to Mel. And we got into the metaphor a little bit about the floor of the actual rainforest has to grow. So it needs the light to come through from the trees. So you can't make the trees, the canopy, too complicated with too much AI, because it won't help the floor grow. So the foundation's not there.
Yeah. And I think the idea that you touched on around cause and effect, and the fact that they have to work harmoniously together and they have to understand. So it's really easy for people to think, let's get complex and let's add a bunch of things, into the mix, and more agents and more AI. But if you're not understanding the actual impact and effect of those agents and what they're trying to achieve, then that's where it becomes potentially a little bit problematic, and in the chaotic bucket as opposed to the complex one.
Yes, let's try and avoid that one.
Well, because we're talking now about the ground level of a rainforest, it kind of leads on to compost. So composable architecture. What a great segue there, isn't it? But I love this one. And just to frame it up, instead of going out to buy, for example, a fully assembled all-in-one home sound system, as you may have used to do, you go down there picking the best speaker and you're picking the best amp and the best streaming device and connecting them all together in a flexible stack that fits your needs and also, more importantly, can evolve later as you get more money and you want to expand this over. So, Scott, what are the benefits of this approach for an organization when they're ideally looking at the right tech stack and the right architecture for their kind of business using this composable architecture?
Yeah. Well, for like years in marketing, we used to have this debate between suite versus best of breed. And I always felt that was it's an unpleasant dichotomy because very often what you wanted the best of both, right? You wanted, for the most part, to have a very coherent center of gravity, to your tech stack, what basically marketing suites like HubSpot, have provided. But there would always be these, new things that came up or this other specialized capability that you might have wanted that wasn't in the suite, and to have to choose between like, well, do I do best of breed or do I do suite? You're like, I want a little bit of both. And that's really, to me, what the vision was of the industry moving to platform ecosystems. And obviously this is a pitch for what I came to HubSpot to do, is help HubSpot, really shift into being a true platform ecosystem oriented company, that you can have the stability, of HubSpot at the center of the tech stack, but you have these literally thousands of other specialized apps that if there's something particular you want to need and you want to be able to plug it in, hopefully us and the partner is making it very easy for you to do that. And I think that's more important than ever, given what's happening here with AI, where there's just so many technologies that are emerging and experimental, and we'll see how they shake out, which ones stick around, which ones go away, which ones evolve in interesting ways. But I think it's really important for people to have the flexibility to say, like, if there is this other specialized tool I want to be able to plug it in, to my core platform. And so.
Well,
I mean, you brought a platform ecosystem guy onto the show, so probably not a surprise that that's going to be my pitch to you.
No, well, I'm actually going to talk about HubSpot because obviously that is the platform now and the future. So, because having Yamini, of course, at Grow, what I took away from that as well, HubSpot's USP back in, I think, the inauguration of 2007, coming up for 20 years in 2027 that HubSpot's been going. Originally, we used to, the USP, if you like, was helping businesses attract, engage, and delight customers by transforming the way they market. That was the original. Now, Yamini, of course, said that HubSpot now is positioned as AI-powered customer platform for scaling businesses, delivering unified data, engaging hubs, and embedded AI. So, Scott, with 20 years coming up in 2027 of HubSpot, what's going to evolve in the next 2 years? In your prediction, what do you think HubSpot looks like? I'm going to put you on the spot in 2027.
Man. I don't know. One thing one thing working on that Martech landscape year over year has taught me is my ability to predict the future is remarkably small. It's. I think I basically would speak generally because things are moving so fast that trying to like really imagine very specifically what will happen from 2 years from now, my crystal ball just isn't that good. But I think a couple of things thematically we can be really clear on. First of all, as I said earlier, AI is here to stay. And the single greatest thing about AI is the empowerment it offers to individuals. If you are a creator, and I use that term very loosely, I don't mean just like an independent creator out there on Instagram or TikTok. I mean, even inside a business, you're a creator. You're someone who has these ideas and you want to get things done. Oh my goodness, this is your time to shine because these tools are just so empowering for you. And so I think HubSpot will continue to go in that direction of supporting these creators within organizations and making sure that there's a way to get sort of that best of both worlds, where individuals are empowered to do so much, but at the same time, you still have that center of gravity of a core platform that's able to provide the guardrails and the orchestration across the team as a whole. I think that's going to be a pretty big part of it. Wow, what else? What else is AI going to unlock for us?
I think I'm hearing the AI Creator Hub is coming in the next 2 years.
I think all the hubs are going to be the AI Creator Hub. The other thing I will say, and this is maybe not a HubSpot specific thing, but I think it's going to be the new thing we all start wrestling with over these next 2 years is AI and agents isn't just going to be for the sellers. Buyers are going to increasingly have their own agents and their own AI, and it's going to create a really interesting new constituency for us as sellers that, hey, have your agent call my agent, kind of what's going to be, happening
That's
here. We're already starting to see it a little bit with, some of these things being released by like OpenAI.
Yeah.
At some level, we've always, as marketers, had to deal with, these intermediary agents. We just referred to it as the Google bot, but now we're going to have a plethora of these different kinds of agents that we have to engage with as part of how we work with customers. And going to be a lot of exciting learning and innovation that happens there.
That's a very interesting way to look at it, right? The customers, we tend to forget, like we're working with them, but they're also got access to the same AI features that we have as an organization. And so the idea of AI agents speaking to an AI customer agent and doing all the work before we even get involved.
And there's more and more examples of it. I saw one just yesterday of it was probably developed to be like a B2B platform where it's a data scraping tool, but you had a TikTok influencer with AI basically saying to everyone, hey, if you're looking for property, here's a really good example of how you can scrape a bunch of real estate sites and put it into an Excel document and compare the listings without having to do anything old school. So you're right, the AI tools are making the buyer and the consumer much smarter and much more educated in a much faster capacity. So.
Yeah, cool. Well, we're going to close up because we're going to get into our exciting toolkit segment in a minute. And I know that the team here have got something exciting in their toolbox to share with our viewers and our listeners. So just closing up, Scott, some practical advice for folks out there in terms of, just motivating action. Like we've covered a lot of topics here, right? People are dabbling in it. How do you go from kind of dabbling to, not so much mastering. I don't think anybody masters AI. But what's some practical advice would you say? A couple of tips for people to sort of take away what we've spoken about today and actually get on the right track.
Yeah. Well, certainly if you aren't dabbling enough, please don't wait any longer. This is one of these things where you learn by being hands-on with it. And the more time you spend working with these tools, the more you are going to discover what's possible, and the more it's going to adapt the way you think about what's possible. I think the second thing is I would say, it's a bit of a cliche, but it is so true. It's not the AI, it is the data, and we have been on a long journey, both as marketers, but organizations more broadly, to get our data in better shape. That is still a massive priority. So any investments you're doing in cleaning your data, doing a better management of it, expanding the scope of data that you have access to within your organization, that's a great place to invest. And then the third is, as you start to move this stuff to production, you don't have to boil the ocean.
Mel's favorite word.
A couple key use cases, like, all right, we're going to use this for this content pipeline like this, and let's do this on this regular basis, or we're going to launch, this customer agent, and it's going to, be responsible for servicing these use cases. We're going to keep a really close eye on it, but we're going to bring it into production, and I don't know. Those are a few things to get you started.
What about the data hygiene? I know Mel's sort of very particular on this part. You read a bit of an article on governance around data?
Yep, data hygiene, why it matters, using HubSpot Deep Research Connector. I think it's this idea of like clean in, clean out. People think AI is going to be this magical tool that's going to fill in the gaps. But if you haven't done your due diligence as a business to capture as much as you can in an accurate fashion, then you're not going to get a good result. And you're going to get fed up, but a lot of people, I know it's boring. It's a boring topic and people don't understand.
I think people are getting more excited about data now.
Hopefully. I've been quite passionate about keeping systems clean and records clean and why the connectors matter. Yep. And this is exactly why, because if you're going to embrace AI and the tools, you've got to make sure you've got a solid foundation to start for the connectors and the tools to work off.
Awesome. Well, it's a good segue. You mentioned tools. Go and grab your toolkit. Scott, grab your toolkit, and we'll be right back with our toolkit segment. Yes, so the most exciting part, well, it isn't, because we've had a fantastic, exciting, full-on energy podcast with Scott today, but even more exciting perhaps is our toolkit segment where we share with you a particular tool. Could be AI, could be, generally it's digital. I don't think we've actually brought in a physical tool that's been fixing things in the shed, but maybe one day we might. So we're going to have a look at what's in Scott's toolkit for us today.
All right, well, I'll pick one. And by the way, asking someone who runs a platform ecosystem of hundreds and hundreds of wonderful products to pick one tool, that's like saying, which of your children is your favorite? And so what I'm actually going to do is pick a tool that we use in the HubSpot partnerships organization to unlock so much exciting stuff. It's a tool called Crossbeam. And it was purpose built for partnerships. It's almost like a data clean room, but very specifically built for partnerships. The two companies that want to collaborate together, we can share our customer information in a very secure way to, first of all, even like identify overlaps of like, oh, how many shared customers do we have? Or how many of your customers are my prospects and vice versa? And can do that in a way where neither one of us gets to actually see the customers, but we see like, oh, okay, this is the scale of potential overlap. Maybe it makes sense for us to do something together. If we then decide to take it further, we can actually share account level information. So none of this is like PII or personal contacts or anything, but we can see like, oh, here are the list of companies that are my customers, who are also your customers. We can compare this maybe in the case of HubSpot of, okay, we've got these shared customers, which ones aren't yet integrating our two tools together, so we can actually now proactively say, hey, by the way, you like HubSpot, you like Acme product, guess what? They actually integrate together. Let's get you connected. And that becomes a win for, us, the partner, and most of all, the customer. A whole bunch of other use cases we gotta do with that, but Crossbeam is like a partnership superpower. I love it.
Yeah, awesome. Great. Thank you for that one. Mel, what have you got in your toolkit for us today?
So in the theme of today's show, building marketing momentum with AI and Martech, I had a look at our own marketing and what's a bit of a pain point at the moment. And video creation is one of those hot button topics that people want more of, and it's often time consuming. I've come across a program called Opus Clip, and it effectively takes one long video clip and cuts it into 10 viral short clips. Its claim is 10 times faster than a normal video production. But the thing I like about it most is a bit of organisation in the back. So it takes your boring B-roll footage, it categorises it. A designer can come in and say, I need B-roll footage of an office or a product or a telephone, and it just goes and finds you the clip, and it puts it all together. And it's trying to make video building much faster with prompting and archive and storage. It's a really interesting new bit of product. I think there might be a wait list for it at the moment, but I encourage everyone to jump on. There's the ability to get a free trial for it. It's a really good AI curation and tool for video editing, and also captions, emojis, anything for the social platforms. It's not forcing a designer or a video editor to have to kind of relearn things. It's taking all of that information that it knows best and putting it into the back of your video clips.
Wonderful. And video is such an important way to communicate. Like we've been talking about, I don't know how many years now, like video, get it across there. And now more and more tools are coming out that can actually help you produce it quicker and faster and more professionally. So rummaging into my toolkit. So going off the back of what in fact, Scott mentioned before about bringing ChatGPT AI into your organization custom built. So our lovely RevOps team here at Sorted Stone, shout out to them, actually created for, me at the moment, because I'm utilizing in the sales process of the organization, called Salty Brief. Now, to give you an idea, it's a custom GPT, acts as a seasoned sales analyst sitting by my side. And being a lazy salesperson as I am, more of a creative salesperson, it sits to put in the devil in the detail for me, guided by detailed behavioral instructions, enriched, tailored files, like our SOPs and our proposals, all loaded into the memory banks of this one. live web data, and also stuff from Teamwork, which is our project management. Everything is loaded into this lovely little brain power. So I actually implemented this in the sales process recently, and actually created a response to a really detailed brief from a particular prospect. Using Sortie Brief, it helped me review the document and the brief that the client had sent through, and our approach based on our previous experience, helped me prepare the pitch, put it together, and we won it. So how's that for a good case study, bite-sized case study that we use ChatGPT for our own. So, ChatGPT can move the needle in sales, certainly, and that's proof in the pudding. So some great toolkits. So thanks for sharing those. Going to end on an optimistic note. This is a most creative and highest performing time ever in history of marketing. Would you agree with that, Scott? Are we like
100%?
100%.
It has never been a better time to be a marketer.
That's it. Thank you. And the creative possibilities are enormous, huge acceleration in creative speed, whether it be video, creative thinking through agile, whatever it might be. So, start to think about how can you foster agility in what matters most. And, as we go through this, in fact, I haven't told the team this yet, but as I was preparing for this one, Scott, and know that you're going to go live with us once this is edited and out in the month of August. August, I'm calling a month of...
I'm hanging on for this one.
This is it. This is the new term, ROAI.
ROAI, return on?
Artificial Investigator. Yeah, so there you go. So ROAI is August is going to be our month. So we're going to have this great podcast. I've written a blog post as well that has all the stuff from Breeze AI and all the stuff we learned to grow. There'll be a bunch of other stuff. So stay with us through August and you're going to get some ROI from your AI.
I think that's fantastic.
I love it.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of hesitation because people think, people are wasting time plugging prompts into ChatGPT, and if you can actually show them, hey, it's showing some return on investment. I think HubSpot have got some fantastic case studies and facts. We saw it grow, especially around customer service and how AI is exponentially creating a more efficient organisation. It's very interesting. So.
It is. Well, let's look forward to August where we're going to embrace it with open arms. But
Absolutely.
Mel, thanks for being the co-host again. We'll have you back next time whether you like it or not. Scott, thank you for joining us live from the States for our podcast this week. It's been a fantastic episode and really appreciate you joining us.
Tony, Mel, thank you so much for having me. Have a great day.
You too.
You too, mate. If you've missed an episode of any of our great podcasts, then please go to sortedstone.com/under-the-hood. There'd be a link, which is a lot easier. Maybe even a QR code. Who knows? We'll make it super easy for you, frictionless. And don't forget to subscribe if you've missed an episode. We'll see you next time on Under the Hood.